Hello, friends online. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the book I am embarrassingly still reading because I don't read every day and I want to, trying to, but I haven't really read a book from like front to cover or cover to cover in like longer than I'm willing to admit. um, so it's taking me a bit, but that's part of my habits, right? So part of what I read about was making like the habits that you want to have look more attractive, not just in like pairing them with something good that happens, but also in like surrounding yourself in social structures that view the habits you're trying to do as a good thing, you know? And so I think that's really important to talk about because if you live in a social paradigm like your friends all are just like video gamers or TV watchers, they're not people that are going to help you with picking up the habit of like reading or exercising, basically. Like, so if you want to get involved in a habit of like going to a gym and exercising or reading and stuff, he really says like find like a social structure that exists where these traits are exalted, basically. And so like it makes sense when the people around you value something. It's hard to not value it yourself, especially when it's already something that you are striving for, a habit that you want to build. It makes it even more valuable to you when the people around you value it as well. Like when you live in a hoarder house or something, um, even if you are like a child of a hoarder and you value um, cleanliness and keep your own room clean, it's going to be hard because the household doesn't value cleanliness. So you're not going to find it being prioritized there, you know? This is applicable to any kind of household, you know? The opposite of what is there isn't valued there, obviously, or it would be there, right? And so conversely to, he talked about making the habits that you want to disappear less attractive. And so that can look like if you are wanting to stop smoking cigarettes. He talked about this guy who read this book about like just all the terrible things about like cigarettes, and he said by the end of the book he didn't want to smoke because he no longer saw those, but he only saw the cons of smoking because he read a whole book about all the cons of smoking. And I mean, I don't know if that would work for me per se, but I do think it's an interesting thing that can happen for people for sure. That when you suddenly see a negative side that you never even thought of, that never occurred to you, it can make a previous habit less appealing and easier to quit. And then he talked too about, oh fuck, what was it? I walked through a doorway and I forgot everything I was talking about. But yeah, so I'll go back to what I was talking about, making the habits you want more attractive or more appealing, socially, mentally, all that stuff, and then making the bad ones less appealing, you know. And it's just kind of, it seems like common sense after you know it, but I gotta say that I didn't like consciously know this. I wasn't like aware that this was really something that does influence, you know, like my habits and patterns. And I wanted to talk too about something really interesting from the book. If I didn't mention at the beginning, this is Atomic Habits by James Clear that I'm talking about. I was gonna say he talks about something that I thought was really interesting. He said one of the most frequent questions people ask him is how long does it take for a habit to form, and he said doesn't the time is irrelevant. And that was weird to me because I had previously read a book by Dr. Carolyn Leaf that said on average it takes about 2 months for a habit to really become more like automatic and stuff based on like neurology and stuff. But what he said makes a lot of sense. He said you could do an activity 200 times in 2 months, or you could do it twice in 2 months. 2 months doesn't mean anything. It's about the frequency of the repetitions in a time period, basically. He said it's how many times you do the habit, not how long you've been doing the habit for. He said if you want to meditate more, practice, do 5 minutes, not just once a day, do it multiple times a day. and you're going to build your habit much quicker, which I just thought was really, really interesting, because I think that actually would probably have some kind of neural, like neurology implications as well, that the more times a neural pathway is enforced, and probably I think the time period as well, but really the more it's enforced, the stronger the habit will be. I'm sure it's probably a bit of both, views, Dr. Caroline Leaf and James Clear. But it's just really interesting to see both perspectives and gain a wholer understanding of like what has bearing on my positive and negative habits as well. Oh, and okay, this is what I was going to talk about earlier. He talks about how that every habit is really just our brain's learned response to satisfy a deeper need or motivation. And so I didn't read the whole list yet of all the different motivations he says, but I do agree in my own understandings of life that there are always deeper motivations for our actions, especially like when you think about in interpersonal conflict, if someone is like offensive, aggressive with someone who maybe didn't have any bad intentions, like the deeper reasoning is, well, their past is influencing how they behave in the present, and it comes from this like pain, from this trauma, from this thing that made them remember something in childhood or whatever. And it's like, it's our basic like human vulnerabilities that we often seek to satiate, and then habits are just the things that we subconsciously learned quickly, like, oh, this helps. Like, it's not forever, but it helps now, rather. And so retraining yourself, I think, to cultivate habits that don't necessarily help now, but will help later is really something I'm trying to work on. But by making them more, I guess, what's the word? More positive in the now will kind of help me stick to them, like he was talking about in the book, like pairing it with things that are like more appealing. So like, for example, he said if a lot of people get joy from like petting their animals or something. He said if you're looking to like exercise more or something, you can entice yourself to do so with like, okay, I'm gonna do like 10 squats and then I can go like pet my cat and like love on her and stuff. And it's like, that's kind of cool. And it made me think too about how I'd already kind of half jokingly done this with myself with therapy. I had a therapist for a few years that I really loved, and they switched to a place that didn't take my insurance, and I kind of fell off with therapy for about 6 months and got in a bad way, and then was trying to find a new therapist, and it took a while, but last year, a little over a year ago, I found a therapist to work with, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make myself like therapy. They had these Hershey Kisses in a glass like bin in the waiting room, and I was like, I'm going to Pavlov myself every time I come to therapy and I sit in the office to wait for my appointment. I'm going to have a little treat, a little Hershey Kiss. And like, I was making jokes about my mouth watering whenever I talk about my emotions, but it's kind of like, it really did like help in a little bit, even if it was like kind of jokey too with myself, that like little bit of, I get to have an inside joke with myself. I get to have humor when I'm going to talk about really serious things sometimes, I think that helped a lot to not see therapy as this like really tough and difficult, not fun thing. So yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit of that. It's really hard, I think, changing habits, and I wanted to touch on too what I've talked on in other videos too, like just noticing more so of how like how we identify ourselves really does have a huge impact on our motivations for different habits. So I've been trying to see myself as a healthy person, though it's debatable whether or not I have done that much. But recently, the last couple days, I have been identifying more as like a healthy person. I've seen firsthand that I have been more motivated to actually go for walks, wear a weighted vest, pursue more like physical job opportunities of dog walking, because I'm like, you know what, it doesn't matter if I don't feel up for it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna make money doing it too. So yeah, I'm looking forward to cultivating better habits still. I definitely have had success though with some habits. So that I've like been trying to instill in myself. And I've been doing better cutting out some bad habits too. The late night snacking has gotten not non-existent, but less. But it's great being able to notice myself like heading towards the kitchen at night, and I think to myself, I'm like, well, do I want to get 1% better or 1% worse tonight? Sometimes I choose the 1% worse. Sometimes the 1% worse tastes delicious and I have no regrets. But a lot of times I've noticed I'm just eating because like it has become a habit. I'm not even really hungry, nor do I really want to taste any food. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's late time. I get to eat and watch shows like in in silence in the rest of the house, you know, like because it's nighttime and everyone's asleep. But it's like, no, I don't have to do that just because I have done it before. And like, I want to choose to get 1% better a lot of times now. And so it's been helping. So yeah, I wish everyone luck in their journey on life, really. Let's be real. But changing your habits consciously is part of that. And I definitely just spit, but that's fun. So yeah, good luck everyone. And I hope you have a good day, night, whenever you are. Bye.